Okay, when turning circles into trees and shrubs, you want to make sure that your template is as flat as possible and your pencil is as sharp as possible. So if you're using a mechanical pencil, just get one that's comfortable for you. And there are two types of basic symbols. Symbols where the circle that you're going to draw is actually part of the symbol, and symbols where the circle is not really part of the symbol. So we'll start with that one first. And if the circle is just going to be a guideline, you really only want a very light circle, something that you can see is not necessarily going to show up on copy. So you don't have to push real hard. Just get your circle going. And you can see that's fairly light. Hopefully we can see that. Yes, we can. And some of the circles you might look at are simply doing little, they almost look like U's. And you just go around. Notice I am picking up my pencil every single time. And I'm using the circle as a guideline, but it's not where the U's, if you will, are touching it. They're actually going over it, again, helping to hide that a little bit more. So you don't want your circles to touch. The other thing you don't want is to go too fast. So we don't want to see this. Because when you do this, first off, they all start going in different directions. Second off, you start doing loop-de-loops, and we really don't want that. We want every line to be purposeful. So that's one way to look at that. I'm going to kind of zoom in a little bit so you can see that. So what we're trying to avoid is where we're using the circle where everything's touching it. We're trying to avoid loop-de-loops. We want our little U's to be covering the circle so that we're kind of hiding that part of the guideline. And we want them to each be purposeful and facing roughly in the center of the circle. So you don't want them going all cattywampus and all over the place. You can do a similar thing with evergreens. So an evergreen symbol might have lines instead of a circle. So I'll draw a light circle. I'm drawing a little bit darker than I might normally so that you can see it on the paper. And again, same thing. If you want to think of where the rough center of that circle is, you can mark it if you want to, but you don't necessarily have to. You simply want to make individual lines covering the guideline that you drew, and roughly about the same spacing. They can be a little bit closer, a little bit further. They don't have to be exact. And you'll notice every single time, let me go over here, I'm picking the pencil up and putting the pencil down. I'm not doing this. Yes, that's a lot faster, but it's also a lot messier. So again, let me kind of zoom in over here so you can see what we're trying to avoid is looking messy. We want everything to be purposeful. And again, I've drawn the guideline a little bit darker than you might normally, simply because that allows you to see things. Let me zoom back out again a little bit. There's also the type of symbol where the symbol is pretty much part of what you're doing. So you can draw the symbol definitely a nice thickness or a nice darkness, especially if you're using a softer pencil. And then you kind of look at roughly where the center is. And you're drawing a line like that. Now that is a very simple symbol. You can, if you want to, utilize a straight edge for that. So let me draw another one. The circle template itself has a straight edge on it, so you could, if your inability to draw a straight line is really impacting your visual appearance of the circle, of the symbol, you can definitely use that as a straight edge if you want to. It is not required that you do so because A, it's a lot slower. You see how much longer it took me to do that. B, when you're moving something around on the paper, you do run the risk of smudging it. And C, this is perfectly acceptable. Again, if you're struggling to draw straight lines, you might find using a straight edge works a little bit easier for you. The PDF guide that I've put on Carmen has hundreds of different types of circles. So those are some very simple ones. This is just a brief tutorial to kind of get you started.